Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Mel. Thank you so much for joining me today as I recommend books to the Heartstopper characters. So yeah, the obsession is continuing, so I'm just leaning into it, and today, like I said, I am going to recommend books to the main Heartstopper characters. This is going to be based on the characters that appear in the television program rather than the characters in the graphic novel. There are two reasons for that. First of all is that I have now watched the television program probably about 8 times now, whereas I've only read through the graphic novels on Webtoons once. So I feel like I have a lot more knowledge of the TV characters than I do of the graphic novel characters. Although obviously the main characters, Nick and Charlie, are very similar to their portrayal in the graphic novels. There are a few little differences even with the main characters. The other reason is because some of those characters, like Tao, get a lot more characterization in the first season of the TV show than they do in the first couple of volumes of the graphic novels, and I just thought it would be a lot of fun to recommend books to all of the cast, or the main cast. Also, I will be recommending a book to Isaac, who is the character that was created for the television program and sort of replaces Elle, who is one of the characters who is one of Charlie's friends in the graphic novel series, so I won't be recommending books to Elle. Yeah, so the characters that I will be recommending books to today are Nick, Charlie, Isaac, Tao, Elle, Tara, and Darcy. But yeah, so let's do that, shall we? So the first character that I would like to recommend a book to is Charlie Spring, as portrayed by the amazing Joe Locke. So, what do we know about Charlie? Well, when we first open the television program, we learn that Charlie is quite a quiet, reasonably shy, softly spoken. He is seeing a boy very much as a secret. He was outed a year or so prior to the show opening as gay at school. He has gone through a lot of bullying because of that situation, so that has made him quite withdrawn. But we still learn that he's a very kind, very loving, and he is portrayed as being incredibly intelligent. At one point he is having a conversation with Nick, and Nick is describing how he is good at everything, all school subjects, particularly maths. In his room, we see that he has a very large poster of Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh, which is known as an iconic piece of queer literature. Also, in his Instagram feed, we see that he has references to the Odyssey, which in and of itself isn't necessarily queer, but I believe that is a link to the graphic novel where he is also displaying an image of the Iliad, which obviously tells the story of Patroclus and Achilles, who are one of the iconic gay couples of Greek literature. So we know from that he is very well read. He does enjoy classics. He appears to be seeking out gay representation within literature and within media so that he can, learn about himself and see himself represented. So for this reason, and because of the references to both the Iliad and the Odyssey, I have decided that I would like to recommend to Charlie Spring The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. As you can see from the bookmark, I am about halfway through this one myself. I'm absolutely loving it. It is the story of Patroclus and Achilles. So Achilles was the son of someone, who is this? Peleus. So he was the son of Thetis and Peleus, Thetis being one of the minor gods, and he was immortal. In the Iliad, there is a very close connection between Achilles and one of his sworn shieldsmen, Patroclus. The implication, although it's not stated on page, but the implication in the Iliad is that they are in a relationship. This is that story. So I think that Charlie would really enjoy this one. I think that given that he has shown that he has some interest in the classics, in Greek literature, that he is trying to find representations of himself in the in the literature that he reads, in the media that he consumes, I think that this would be a good one for Charlie to read. It's also beautifully written and it really evokes that feeling of classic literature. I haven't got up to the part where we would have any parallels to the actual writing in the Iliad, but I'm expecting that it will evoke the Iliad quite a bit. Like I said, I'm really, really enjoying this one. So this is my recommendation for the character of Charlie Spring. Also, you know, the actor Joe Locke. Not that I would imagine that anyone would see this. Anyway, so the next character that I would like to recommend a book to is Tao, played by Will Gall. So what do we know about Tao? Well, we know that he is into very, I guess you could call them kind of cult classic movies. There's quite a few references between him and one of the other characters, Elle, and choosing movies and what type of movies they are going to choose. In one scene, Tao is suggesting Moonlight. He also suggests Arrival. Another point, they discuss the fact that he forced all of their friends to watch Donnie Darko. So yeah, I think that implies that he really, really enjoys, yeah, like I said, more kind of cult classics. He enjoys films that are quite in-depth, films that are exploring aspects of humanity and what it is to be human and what reality is and what it means. So for that reason, I would like to suggest that Tao read Scythe by Neal Shusterman, or in fact the entire Arc of the Scythe trilogy by Neal Shusterman. I've chosen this one because I do think that this is another series that explores notions of humanity, notions of reality, and explores fundamental concepts that we don't really understand. So the Arc of the Scythe trilogy is a dystopian world in which humanity has conquered death, basically. So no one gets sick anymore, no one dies, or not permanently anyway, with the exception of the fact that there are organisation of people who are scythes, and their job is to kill people. If you're killed by a scythe, then you are actually dead, whereas if you die other ways, you'll be reanimated. And the reason for that is because by curing all illnesses and in fact death itself, we have created another problem of overpopulation. So I really, really enjoyed this series, particularly the first one. I think that it is so interesting, really, really well written. I think that it explores the concept of what is death, what is humanity, what does it mean to be mortal or immortal, what would it mean to gain that ability to not die? Would we still have the same meaning in our lives now as we do now when we are very aware of our mortality? Would we still create and think the way we do? And I think that those are concepts that Tao would be really, really interested in. Like I said, given the various different movies that he's obviously a fan of, I think that he would really, really enjoy this story and find those concepts really, really interesting. Yeah, so Scythe, or the Arc of the Scythe trilogy by Neal Shusterman, is the book that I would choose for Tao. The next character that I would like to recommend a book to is Darcy, portrayed by Kizzy Edgell. So Darcy is one of the characters who attends Higgs Girls' School. Darcy is known to be quite an extrovert. She's in a relationship with Tara, although when the series opens, we don't know that for certain. She's known, like I said, to be very outgoing, to be very extroverted. She's known to be quite a prankster. She's known to be quite quirky. Tara does tell Elle when they're first becoming friends not to do anything that Darcy says, because she'd have you playing American football in the science corridor, I think is what she says. So yeah, Darcy is well known to be quite a prankster, quite quirky, and have quite a quirky and funny sense of humour. So for this reason, I think that Darcy would really, really enjoy The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. So this one is a science fiction novel, and it opens, this is actually the entire bind-up of the series, which I would recommend to Darcy, but I am specifically recommending the first one, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So it is, like I said, a science fiction. We open the novel with Arthur Dent, who has just discovered that his house is about to be knocked down to make room for a highway bypass. And he gets in front of the bulldozers to try and stop this from happening. Along come his best friend, Ford Prefect, and Ford Prefect whisks him off to a pub where he then tells him that he is actually an alien who has been stranded on Earth after traveling there to do a piece for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy on Earth, and now the Earth is about to be bulldozed to make way for a hyperspace bypass. They hitch a ride on the bulldozers, the people in charge of that, and all sorts of crazy hijinks ensue. I love this series. It is just fantastic. It's so funny. It is that kind of British irreverent humour that I think is something that Darcy would really, really appreciate, and I think is something that she is kind of trying to emulate when she is quite quirky and pulling some of the silly, funny stunts that she pulls. I think that the way she expresses herself is very, like I said, extroverted, outgoing, quite confident. She certainly portrays that confidence and that quirkiness a lot, so I really think that she would get a kick. That's just Peanut talking to the birds. I really think that she would get a kick out of this series, and like I said, especially The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think she would find it really, really, really funny. And yeah, so that is the book that I would recommend for Darcy. The next character that I would like to recommend a book to is Nick, played by the absolutely amazing Kit Connor. Nick is portrayed in the series as a very popular rugby lad. He's very good at sports. People just generally like him. He's very easygoing, easy to talk to, easy to be around. We get the impression that unlike Charlie, he's not particularly academic. He's not particularly good at school. He's obviously very good at rugby, but I do think that his friendship and relationship with Charlie starts to help him to not just develop all those things to do with who he is and what he wants and so on, but start to develop a bit more of a thoughtful side, or starts to allow the thoughtful and quite intelligent person that he is to come out a little bit more. At one point, we see that he is looking for LGBTQ movies that he could watch. He's having a movie night with his mother. He's trying to find a movie that potentially he could use to kind of either come out or at least open the way to have a conversation with his mum about his sexuality. But I also think to really explore it himself and to sort of see himself and gain an understanding of himself and what's going on and how he's feeling through that media. So for that reason, I am going to suggest that Nick read Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzales. So this is a young adult queer retelling of Greece. I read this quite a while ago. I can't remember exactly everything that happens, but basically, we follow two boys in high school who have a summer romance, and then we expect that one of the boys is going to go back to their hometown, but they end up staying in the area where the other boy lived. The other boy is, again, a varsity star. This is in America. I'm not sure what sport it is, but some kind of sports star at his school. He is only just exploring discovering his own sexuality. The person that he had this romance with is out, I think, whereas he's not, and like I said, he's only just kind of discovering his own sexuality. So I think that there are definitely parallels between Nick's situation and the main character, whose name is Will. In this story, it is young adult, it is fun. I think that it would be the kind of thing that would be great as a sort of jumping off point for someone who isn't as much of a reader. I think this is something that he would really, really enjoy. So this is definitely the book that I would recommend for Nick and, Kit Connor as well. But yeah, that's that one. The next character that I'm going to recommend a book to is Elle, played by Yasmin Finney. So at the beginning of the series, we see that Elle has recently moved from Truant Boys to Higgs Girls, and she is a little bit struggling to make some friends. She's very kind of apprehensive about how she's going to be received at the school, and so she doesn't necessarily want to put herself out there. Later in the series, when she has started to make friends with Tara and Darcy, we see that she is very fun-loving, very thoughtful, she's very intelligent, and very sassy and quite quick-witted, but yeah, she's just wanting to relax and have a nice time. I think that it is in the 6th episode where she talks to Tara and Darcy about the fact that she has gone through a lot of changes in her life recently. So obviously the move from Trillium Boys to Higgs Girls, also the fact that she has transitioned and all of the stuff that has come along with that. So she also talks to Tao a few times about having been bullied herself by some of the boys at Trillium. So she had to deal with not only discovering herself and making that leap to decide to transition, but she's also had to deal with a lot of transphobia and a lot of bullying. And so you really see that she just needs to be loved and happy, and she just needs to relax. She has a conversation with Tao where they're talking about picking a movie, and she says she just wants it to be fun. She just wants to watch something fun or funny. And so for this reason, I am going to suggest that Elle read. I'm actually holding up the wrong book. I'm holding up Wondersmith, but that's a placeholder for Nevermoor by Jessica Townsend. So Nevermoor is the first one in the series, Wondersmith is the second one. Currently there are 3 books out. I'd highly recommend all 3 of them, but I'm specifically recommending Nevermoor. I don't have it at the moment. My sister has borrowed it, which is why I'm holding up Wondersmith in its place. The reason why I am recommending Nevermoor for Elle is that it is just such a lovely, sweet, light-hearted story. There are some darker things in the series, and we do see some of the trauma that Morrigan has gone through and some of the ways that she's been treated, but overall it's just such a wholesome and such a enjoyable book to read. The whole plot of them are very enjoyable, very loving books to read. So I really think that they would be something that would be that relaxing and just big hug of a book that Elle really needs. So yeah, that is the book that I'm recommending for Elle. The next character that I'm going to recommend a book to is Tara, played by Corinna Brown. Tara is one of the other girls that attends Higgs Girls' School. She is a very open, very friendly, very well respected person at the school. The teacher offers to Elle that she will assign Tara to look out for her, so she's obviously well respected by the staff as well as by the students. You see that she has a lot of friends. However, she's also finding things quite difficult, and that difficulty is explored quite a bit throughout the series because Tara is dating Darcy. At the beginning of the series, this is something that is not known. They eventually do come out to Elle and let Elle know that they are dating, and then in the 3rd episode, I think, they come out to the school in general because at a party they kiss each other in full view of all the people attending the party, and then Tara put something on Instagram, and so she is now come out as being in a relationship with a woman. She then starts receiving some not particularly nice comments on Instagram. She starts having people at the school making comments about her and to her, and she just starts experiencing some quite negative reactions and some negative emotions as a result. She starts to kind of question whether or not it was a good move to come out. She starts to feel quite bad about what's happening and how people are perceiving her. What I'm going to recommend to Tara is The Flames of Albyion by Jean Menzes. This is, of course, Jean Menzes from Jean Bookish Thoughts. I read this in January, I think, and really enjoyed it. The reason that I'm recommending this one to Tara is because Jean herself has said that this is hope punk, I think. So it is a fantasy story, and we follow a young woman who discovers that she has a bond with a dragon, and through her bond with the dragon and learning about this dragon and becoming a dragon rider, I think is what the reference is in the book, she then befriends another dragon rider, and they form a relationship, and that is a sapphic relationship as well. The relationship between these two female characters is just really lovely, just nice. It's like the relationship that we see, the relationships that we see in Heartstopper itself. Just very wholesome. There isn't really any backlash against their relationship within this world. So Jean has created a world where their relationship isn't really an issue. There doesn't seem to be much, if any, homophobia within the world, which is fantastic. So different to Heartstopper itself in that regard, but in the sense that it's just very wholesome, very sweet, very functional. They talk to each other, they express how they're feeling, they love each other's company, they just have a really nice time, and the relationship grows in a really healthy and really lovely way. And I think that it would be really nice for Tara to read a book that is showing a really healthy and really happy female-female relationship. Would recommend this book to Tara. And the final character that I'm going to recommend a book to is arguably the hardest character to recommend a book to, and that is Isaac, played by Toby Donovan. The reason why Isaac is the hardest character to recommend a book to is because he's a massive bookworm. So in every single scene that he is in, pretty much, I think maybe one where he doesn't actually physically have a book in his hand, but the rest, he has a book in his hand. He's in the middle of reading multiple books throughout the series. He reads very, very widely. I believe that one of the books that he reads is Radio Silence, which is one of Alice Oseman's, who wrote Heartstopper, one of her other novels. One of the books that I noticed, and I think most people have noticed that he was reading, was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. So although I say this was arguably the most difficult character to choose a book for, because of the fact that he was reading A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I actually immediately thought, when I planned to do this video, that the book that I was going to recommend to Isaac was Every Breath by Marnie. The reason for that is because I have actually recommended this as a book to read if you enjoy A Good Girl's Guide to Murder quite a bit on my channel. So this is a young adult mystery. It is a retelling of the Sherlock Holmes stories. So we follow Rachel Watts and James Mycroft. They are best friends in high school, and they stumble across a murder mystery, and so they decide they want to try and figure out what happened, and the story goes from there. So I think there are a lot of similarities, like I said, between A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So I immediately thought of this one, but then I wasn't sure, because although Isaac reads all these books, you never actually hear him say what his thoughts about the books are. So I couldn't tell whether he loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder or didn't like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. But then the copy that he's reading is quite well worn, dog-eared, has obviously been read a number of times, which implies that it is a book that he has really, really enjoyed and come back to and read a number of times. So for that reason, I am definitely suggesting that Isaac read Every Breath by Marnie. Like I said, it is a young adult Sherlock Holmes retelling. I think it's incredibly well written, fast-paced, really fun, and for all of those reasons, I definitely think that it is comparable to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. So this is the book that I'm going to recommend that Isaac, possibly Toby Donovan. I don't know why I keep saying that, because you're right. But anyway, so that's my video. All the books that I am recommending to all of the main Heartstopper characters. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of my choices. Would you have recommended different books to these characters? Also let me know what you thought of this video. Would you like to see me do something similar? Is there another television program that you think that I should recommend books to the characters of? Are there any other characters in Heartstopper that you'd like to see me recommend books to? Please let me know all of those things in the comments below. If you would like to leave a comment but you don't know what, then leave me a heart emoji, because we have many heart emojis appearing in the television program Heartstopper, so let's go with that one. All of my social media details are listed in the description below, so if you'd like to go and follow me on any of those other platforms, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for watching. I really, really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.